Griffin Logue has been given a one-match sanction for this hit on Will Day. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. As you can see, he overruns the ball through a pretty careless move. 1 week, I don't know. Will Day got back up and played a really good game, so I don't know.
I reckon that's fantastic football. You can't put your shoulder.
Griffin Logue, so he turns side on and gets that.
Blake Acres has been charged with rough conduct against Brent Daniels. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. For this, he has been given a one-match sanction. Not entirely sure what part of his body connects with Daniels. I think it might be the elbow. If it is the elbow to the head, then a week is probably about right. Luke Pedler from the Crows has been charged with rough conduct. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact on his tackle against Daniel Houston. Watching this live, I actually thought this would have been a holding the ball kick to Pedler. After watching the replay, I still think both their momentum carried them forward. I think the Crows are challenging this one. For this, he has been given a one-match sanction. Jai Newcomb has been charged with misconduct, in which he has been given a $1,500 sanction or a $1,000 early plea for his offence against Griffin Logue. I'm not sure which part is the part that AFL are disagreeing with, whether it's the slight chicken wing tackle or it's his foot putting in front of Logue to almost trip him up. This one took me a little bit of time to find, but here you can see very blurrily Darcy Parish punches Hunter Clark, and for this he's given a $2,500 sanction, or with an early plea, $1,500. Both Ben Keys and Connor Rosie have been given a $2,500 fine, with an early plea of $1,500 for careless contact with an umpire. Both players are watching the ball. They do hit the umpire because they're not paying attention, but to me it looks like Rosie hits him. I don't know if Keys actually makes contact or not, but regardless, it's a $1,500 fine. I don't think they'll challenge this. And lastly, we have Isaac Smith for his striking offence against Elijah Hollins. The match review has graded this as intentional conduct, low impact body contact, for which is a $3,000 sanction, or with an early plea, $2,000.
Everyone had to wait a little longer. Awkward for Hollins.
It was interesting to see that Ben King didn't even get a please explain, fine or anything for this, for his push onto Koenig, which was pretty brutal in the end. Does this have the potential to cause an injury?
Fist from DeConey.
Oh, great contest.
Also interesting to see that Wiedering was not given a please explain for his throat hit on Peatling. These ones were let go. Thanks for watching. Harry Mackay from Carlton has been charged with striking, and he's been given 1 week for his hit on Harry Sheasel. As you can see here, he is charged with careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. This resulted in a 1-game ban. Carlton challenged this at Tribunal tonight on Tuesday, and it was overturned. It was downgraded to a fine, and he's free to play in Adelaide on Thursday night. Tom Lynch has been charged with careless, severe impact and high contact on his hit against Alex Keith. This was sent straight to the tribunal, which means he's most likely to miss at least 3 weeks unless they challenge this after the tribunal. Nathan Broad has been referred to the tribunal for this a dangerous tackle on Patrick Parnell. As this has been referred to the tribunal, Broad will be missing at least 3 weeks, as this tackle was classed as high contact and severe impact. Ryan Burton's tackle here on Jamie Elliott has been classed as careless conduct, high contact. For this, he has been given 2 weeks suspension.
This time the other way. Burton actually has him cold there. He can't move, but because he's already got the arm, can't handball, can't kick. You just sort of lay him down on his hip and then try and get the tackle. But
Gold Coast defender Charlie Ballard has been given 1 week for striking the back of the head of Matt Guelphy during the Sunday clash. This has been graded as intentional conduct, low impact and high contact. Jai Simpkin has struck Caleb Sarong in the second quarter. This action has been classified as intentional, high contact and low impact. For this, Jai Simpkin has been given a week.
Caleb Sarong and Nicolaki were pushing and shoving off the ball, and then Simpkin came in to...
And lastly, Tom de Koning has been charged with kneeing, which is his first offence, on Reece Stanley. This happened in the third quarter. This was graded as careless conduct, medium impact, body contact. For this, he's been given a $3,000 fine, $2,000 fine with an early plea. And that's it for this week.
Knee to the midsection there, wasn't it, in the ruck contest?
The 2023 AFL season has not even started yet, and we've got 3 very interesting situations here where each one could have possibly ended up in a suspension. Let's take a look at them and see what's happened previously and what the suspensions are, if any. Your mate Trent Cotchin is back yet again. As you can see, he throws not 1 but 2 elbows, with the second one holding into Harm's neck. For this, he was dealt a $1,500 fine, or a penalty can be reduced to just $1,000 with an early guilty plea. In 2021, Jack Viney did the same thing to Sam Collins, and yes, the intensity and the length of him holding his elbow into the throat is quite a bit longer, and it does look a little bit more severe. This was taken to the tribunal, and Jack Viney was given 2 weeks for this. It's not too dissimilar from Trent Cotchin's incident. And to be totally honest, I have no idea how Cotchin keeps getting away with this. He continues to be an absolute grub in the sport and gets away with it. I know everyone says that the AFL has favourites and whatever, but this is just getting ridiculous that he can do this, get nothing. Jack Viney does something similar, but most definitely a lot harsher, and he gets 2 weeks, but Trent Cotchin gets a $1,000 fine. It's ridiculous. Is this setting precedents for later in the year when someone else does this and they can get off with a simple fine? In this one, we can see Braden Preuss absolutely flips Tom Berry. In Preuss's defence, Tom Berry does jump towards Preuss. He lifts him, he holds him, but he does let go at the end. I think I'm okay with this one, but this is very, very close. He's got to be careful. With Preuss's history, he probably could have been suspended, but because Tom Berry didn't get an injury, there's no suspension. In this next one, we can see Zorko cleans up Baker here. This one is totally fine as well. And in this one, we can see Isaac Heaney does tackle Geary, but it does look okay. It's around the hips, maybe a little bit higher. He does sort of lift him a little bit, but this one is fine as well. As far as I can tell, these 3 cases against Preuss, Zorko and Isaac Heaney all resulted in no fines and nothing to answer for, which I think is fine. At least it's consistent, and that's pretty much all the fans are looking for. And in this one, Cockatoo takes out Gore. This was incidental. This went to the MRO. He was given 1 week, but it was overturned in the end as he hit his head on the ground, which is what caused the concussion. This one is a little bit confusing, as when the player hits the ground as a result of the tackle, it usually does lead to a week suspension. So again, this one's a little bit confusing. We've seen it where bumps and tackles, like Paddy Ryder's bump last year, was fine, but it resulted in whiplash and a concussion, which in the end Paddy Ryder got 2 weeks for. So not sure how this, in my opinion, very dangerous tackle does not lead to at least a week suspension, because after all, he only hit his head because of the dangerous tackle. This should have been a week. De Goey was in hot water again after this dangerous tackle was laid on Meek. The commentators at the time were saying it depends on if he hits his head and if he has concussion, which is correct the way the AFL have been doing it at the moment, which is frustrating. Should do it on the action, not on the outcome. Now if we take a look at what happened last year in a very similar incident where De Goey laid a tackle on Dangerfield, it probably was a little bit more aggressive, but De Goey did complete a dangerous dumping tackle on Dangerfield, and for this he was given a week. And last year as well, Cam Rayner laid this dangerous tackle on Ben Brown, and he also got a week for this dangerous tackle. I do agree with this one, as Ben Brown's hands were pinned to his chest, and he was slung and then slammed face first into the ground. A week for this seems fair. But going back to the original pre-season De Goey tackle, it's not that dissimilar from the Dangerfield tackle. I'm not sure how one of them you get 1 week and the other you do not. Meek's head does hit the ground. As far as I'm aware, there is no concussion, and De Goey was let off with just a $3,000 fine. So after watching all of these, and there's no suspensions for any of these dangerous tackles or dangerous incidents, I'm not sure what the AFL, what their message is. Are they going to allow these sort of tackles where people can just get a fine, or are they going to start suspending people once it's in the regular season? Why is it that because it's in the pre-season you don't get suspended? Yet again, the consistency of the AFL's ruling is very confusing and very frustrating for AFL fans to watch. If you made it this far in the video, I thank you for watching. If you're new, subscribe. Otherwise, just leave a like. Thanks. Appreciate it. Aidan Call has been given a 1-match sanction for his striking offence against Ollie Lord. This was classed as intentional conduct, low impact and high contact.
Striking report for Call. That's right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a nice little right.
Sam Butler from Hawthorn has been charged with striking. This is a $3,000 sanction with an early plea downgraded to $2,000 for a careless conduct, low impact and body contact against Michael Hibberd. At the start, it looked like Newcombe might have been in a bit of trouble for this strike against Clayton Oliver. There was a strike here, so I think Clayton Oliver is a little bit lucky that he's not getting a staging fine. Overall, nothing to see here, but don't like either side of this. This needs to be stopped.
And then he gets a free snap.
Ball up. If you have a look right hand side of the circle, you can see Newcombe. Oh my goodness. Gary
Must have got him in a really sensitive spot, Jason.
No wonder.
Tom Jonas is lucky to get away with nothing here for his front-on contact against Cam Zohar. If this was a little bit higher, he probably would have been looking at a week or two.
Yeah, Jonas. Well, he braced for contact as he was about to tackle, and it did get him high.
Lloyd Meek has been charged with kneeing Max Gawn in the third quarter. This was classed as careless conduct, low impact and body contact. For that, it's a $5,000 sanction, downgraded with an early plea to $3,000. Mabiel Chol has been charged with tripping Tim Kelly in the second quarter. This is a fixed financial sanction. It carries a $1,500 sanction with an early plea of $1,000.
Well, he's trying to win a clearance in there. Still fighting for it. The Suns come up with it.
Nathan Murphy has been charged with misconduct against Aaron Cadman for his dacking action. This is a fixed financial sanction, again $1,500 with an early plea down to $1,000. Nick Blakey has been charged with striking Joshua Tracy in the second quarter. This was classed as careless conduct, low impact, high contact. For this, it is a $3,000 sanction with an early plea $2,000.
And it's going to be reversed against Blakey for high contact and 50 metres. Oh, this is a double blow.
Oscar McInerney from the Brisbane Lions has been charged with tripping Jai Caldwell from Essendon. This is again a fixed financial sanction of $1,500 with an early plea. It's downgraded to $1,000.
An arm wrestle and a scrap. Caldwell took off and then...
Patrick Cripps has been charged with misconduct for pulling Bailey Smith's hair in the second quarter. This is a fixed financial sanction again, $1,500 with an early plea, $1,000. I'm unable to find the original incident, but Liam Duggan has been charged with rough conduct against Alex Davies. This was careless conduct, low impact, high contact for a $3,000 sanction, downgraded to $2,000. Tom Sparrow has been given 1 week for his rough conduct charge against Will Day. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact.
5, little low squeezing ball goes again with Day. Gets his hands up.
Again, I couldn't find the actual incident this was from, but Cam Zohar has been charged with rough conduct against Jason Horne-Francis. This was classed as careless conduct, low impact, high contact. He's been given a $3,000 sanction with an early plea of $2,000. And the only other one I couldn't find was Tom Atkins has been charged with careless contact with an umpire. This was a $1,500 sanction with an early plea of $1,000. And that's it. This was a big week for fines. The AFL must be saving for something. The Tasmanian Stadium maybe? Probably not. I don't know. But this seems like a lot of fines this week. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Will Ashcroft and Nick Holman have been given a fixed financial sanction of $1,500 or an early plea of $1,000 for engaging in a melee wrestling, and Brandon Starcevich has been given a $2,500 sanction, downgraded to $1,500 for engaging in a melee wrestling, which was his second offence.
Showing Zorko, he's got it a half forward, flowing through.
He's back to Anderson, it's still going on behind play. The umpires have just let that wrestler go.
Sydney Swans' Will Hayward has been cleared by the MRO for making high contact with an opponent. Michael Christensen deemed their actions to be reasonable in these circumstances, so he's free to play, no fine.
Hayward it was. It'll be interesting to see how that gets looked at. He did take his eye for the last second, but he was committed to the ball prior to that.
Isaac Rankin of the Crows has also been cleared of this bump. Michael Christensen said that Rankin was contesting the ball and it was reasonable for Rankin to contest the ball in this way. No further action was taken.
Let's take another look at Isaac Rankin. I mean, you've got to be able to compete for the ball. The question is, was he competing?
Jack Viney has been given a $3,000 sanction with an early plea. This can be downgraded to $2,000 for rough conduct. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and body contact. Tom Jonas has been given a week for this dumping tackle on Tom McDonald. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. And as I said, he has been given 1 week for this tackle. Lockie Hunter was given a week for this forceful front-on contact against Connor Rozee. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. Melbourne challenged this at the Tribunal and lost. Lockie Hunter is out for a week.
Tumbles it forward, coming out at Houston's had a good night. Oh, Hunter puts a real lick on Rozee.
Nick Dacos has been given a $3,000 fine with an early plea downgraded to $2,000 for his strike on Blake Acres. This was classed as intentional conduct, low impact and body contact. Ollie Lord has also been given a $3,000 sanction with an early plea downgraded to $2,000 for his sliding tackle against Jake Lever. This was classed as careless conduct, low impact and body contact. Christian Salem has been given a $3,000 sanction downgraded to $2,000 for his trip on Jason Horne-Francis. This was classed as intentional conduct, low impact and body contact.
Horne-Francis went to ground.
Sam Frost has been given a $3,000 sanction, again an early plea of $2,000 for his strike on Connor West. This was graded as careless conduct, low impact, high contact. Both Jeremy Finlayson and Van Rooyen have been given no fines or anything for this little skirmish we saw. Probably a good result in the end.
That was it there, the little shove and then the retaliation. It's always the way.
Jack Viney has given away a hard free kick here against Jason Horne-Francis. No fine came from this. I thought there might have been, but there's not.
Let it go. Hey, I got it. Thank you. Clear it. Thank you. He had his head down, gathering the football. Thank you. Clear out, please.
These conditions, flicking handball. And he'll get a high free kick here.
Jack Steele has been given a $3,000 sanction with an early plea of $2,000 for his rough conduct against Lockie Ash. This was classed as careless conduct, low impact and high contact.
Accidentally got him high.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe and leave a like. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Carlton's David Cunningham has not been cited for this dangerous tackle on Trent Rivers. Razor Ray was right there and he decided not to pay a free kick, but it was an umpire who was 60 metres away who paid this free kick, and I think this is about right. I don't think this is worth a fine and definitely not a suspension. Now before we get too far into the video, if you do like these, please do subscribe if you're new, like the video, and if you really love me, leave a comment. All that stuff helps the YouTube algorithm really like these videos and gives it to more people to watch our stuff and the awesome game that we all love. Let's keep going. Brodie Smith from the Adelaide Crows has been charged with striking Eric Hipwood in the 4th quarter. The MRO graded this as intentional conduct, low impact and body contact. For this, he's been given a $3,000 sanction. With an early plea, this can be downgraded to $2,000. While it doesn't look like much, it's definitely not a footy act and we don't need this in the game. Definitely take it out, and I think a fine here is definitely justified. West Coast Eagles' Tom Cole has been given the all clear for his tackle on Jai Amos. To me, it personally looks like Amos's momentum carries him forward through the tackle. While his head does look like it hits the turf, it also looks like the momentum that he's carrying, and that's the reason why. So I think that this is the perfect outcome. No fine, no suspension for what I think is a perfectly legal tackle in the AFL. Port Adelaide's Willie Rioli has been charged with tripping Connor Idun from the Giants in the 2nd quarter. This is a fixed financial sanction, which is a $1,500 fine. With an early plea, it can be downgraded to $1,000. It happens quite fast, but you can see that he sticks his leg out and he does sort of trip Connor Idun there. And this is pretty consistent for what we've seen this year, so I think this one is fine. Malcolm Roses from the Gold Coast Suns has been charged with rough conduct against Aaron Francis from the Sydney Swans. This happened in the 4th quarter and the MRO graded it as careless conduct, low impact and high contact. For this, Roses has been given a $3,000 sanction, which can be downgraded to $2,000 with an early plea. I think this one seems very right to me. He does make contact with the head. Don't know if it's enough for a suspension. The camera angles were a little bit hard to see and it doesn't look that much of contact to the head, so I guess a fine is about right for me. Michael Walters from the Dockers has escaped any sort of sanction, no fine, no suspension for this dangerous tackle on Witherden. I was actually quite surprised from this because it does look like a second slinging action, and I honestly thought this was going to be a week. The AFL were trying to take out the slinging action, and for this one I think this is a textbook sling. I was expecting 1 week, but he didn't even receive a fine. Anyway, that's it for this week. I think the guys must have been on their best behaviour because that's all the suspensions and fines. I even found a few that the MRO didn't even look at, so I don't know if they were short on time or maybe their pockets are all cashed up so they don't need to fine players for tripping umpires or whatever this week. Maybe they'll run a little bit short next week and we'll see lots of tripping fines, or careless contact with the umpire fines rather. Until then, thank you for watching the video and I'll see you in the next one. Round 23, 2023, the AFL match review. Here are the suspensions and fines that happened in the last week. If you do like these videos, please consider subscribing. Bo McCreary from Collingwood has been suspended for 1 match for his rough conduct, dangerous tackle on Darcy Wilmot from the Brisbane Lions. This happened in the 3rd quarter and the MRO classed this as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. For me, this one seems about right, as there does seem to be a second motion where he sort of grabs him and pushes him forward with his arms pinned and his head does hit the ground. Therefore, I think a week is about right. You might think it's soft, but I think that they need to take this out of the game. You don't need to be doing the second action and potentially injuring another player. In the Saturday match, Zach Guthrie bumps Hunter Clark and it looks like it's in the shoulder. Hunter Clark went off for a HIA for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. There's been no suspension for this, which thankfully common sense has prevailed here. It looks like it was a legal bump, maybe a little bit late, so a free is appropriate. No suspension, no fine. Good outcome. I'm a little bit disappointed that Papley from the Swans and King from the Crows didn't receive fines for their 2 individual flops here. These two were going at it all night and both of them were flopping. Got to get this out of the game because this totally could change the game with a bad call from the umpire, not related to the goal or point post incident. That's totally different. What I'm saying is if you flop like this and you get a free kick and a set shot at goal, it's totally unfair. I honestly think this should be a fine because I don't like it in the game. This isn't soccer, get rid of it. Tom Atkins from Geelong has been fined $3,000, which can be downgraded to $2,000 with an early plea for kicking Jamie Webster, according to the AFL website. I'll show you this. The MRA class this as careless conduct, medium impact and body contact. He's clearly Jimmy Webster, but for some reason the AFL have it listed as Jamie Webster. Ollie Henry from Geelong has been charged with rough conduct for a dangerous tackle on Liam Stocker in the second quarter. The MRA graded this as careless conduct, low impact and high contact. For this he's been given a $3,000 sanction, which can be downgraded to $2,000. Quite surprised this wasn't a week actually. It's not too dissimilar from the Bo McCreary and another one we'll see in just a minute. So I'm not sure why this one is a fine and the others are a suspension. What are your thoughts on that? Taylor Duray from the Western Bulldogs has been charged with rough conduct for his dangerous hit on Jamie Cripps in the fourth quarter. The MRA graded this as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. For this he'll be sitting out for 1 match. I think this seems about right to me. He was running past, he looked like he sort of braced himself. It happens so fast it's very hard to see. So I'm not entirely sure if it should be a week or should be a fine. It's a little hard to say, but I guess a week is about right. Zach Butters from Port Adelaide and Hayden Young from Fremantle have both been charged with careless contact with an umpire. This happened in the fourth quarter. It's a $1,500 sanction with an early plea can be downgraded to $1,000. Nothing more to see here. Tom McCartan from the Sydney Swans has been charged with rough conduct for his bump on Shane McAdam in the fourth quarter. The MRO graded this as careless conduct, high impact and high contact. For this he's been given a 2-match sanction, which the Swans are contesting. It's a little hard to say how the extent of the contact, I guess. Also, I wasn't fully attentive to this game. I had other things on, but I'm not entirely sure that Shane McAdam actually came off for a HIA, which the way he sort of bounces down on the ground and his arms flop around, it looks like he's concussed. So if he didn't, then I guess the Adelaide Crows should probably cop a fine the same as Port Adelaide did the other week. What do you think? Mitch Duncan from the Geelong Cats has been charged with rough conduct for his dangerous tackle against Jack Higgins from St Kilda in the first quarter. The MRA graded this as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. For this he's been given a 1-match sanction, and I think this looks right, as there definitely looks like there's 2 motions for the tackle and it's well after the play has been stopped. I think 1 match is about right.
Max King was then able to apply the tackle and create the holding the ball, and we just see this tackle here, just that slinging motion. 11 with the Eagles.
Elliot Yeo from the West Coast Eagles has been charged with rough conduct, dangerous tackle against Jack McRae from the Western Bulldogs in the third quarter. The MRO graded this as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. For this he'll be missing out for 1 match. And this is the one that I was talking about, which I don't think is too dissimilar from Bo McCreary. He got a match for it, but then Ollie Henry didn't get a match for this. He got a $3,000 sanction. So can you tell me what the difference is? To me they look pretty similar, so I'm not sure why 2 get a suspension and the others doesn't when they're all tackled and landed on their head. Can you explain that one to me? Anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video. I'm doing the suspensions first and I'll hopefully be getting the oddities video out tomorrow. If you like these videos, please do like, subscribe, leave a comment of your thoughts on all the suspensions and fines that's happened this week. Let me know and I'll see you next time. Hello and welcome to the suspensions for round 24. This is the last one of the regular season, so let's get to it. Charlie Ballard from the Gold Coast Suns has been charged with rough conduct. This was actually his 3rd offence during the match for his bump off the ball on Nick Larkey. The MRO classed this as intentional conduct, low impact, body contact. For this he's been given a $8,000 sanction, which can be downgraded to $5,000 with an early plea. What are your thoughts on a player who has 3 individual offences during a game receiving a $8,000 sanction? Or do you like the baseball analogy, 3 strikes and you're out for a week? What are your thoughts? Is a fine enough or should it be a suspension for a week if you have 3 individual offences during 1 match? James Blank from Hawthorn has been charged with engaging in a melee wrestling offence, which was his second offence. This happened in the third quarter. It's a fixed financial sanction of $2,500 for his second offence, which can be downgraded to $1,500 with an early plea. My question is, why was he the only one who received a fine? As you can see, he's not the only one who is wrestling, and from the very limited footage that we have, I don't think he was the one who started it. So I'm not entirely sure how the MRO have just singled out him and why he's the only one who receives a fine, but I guess that's the way it goes. Watching this at full speed, it does look like Durham slams Cameron's head into the ground, but when we slow it down, it looks like his shoulder does make impact with the ground first. He does look injured. This wasn't called a dangerous tackle on the night, and I think this is the right call for me. It's a very hard tackle, but I think it's legal, it's fine, nothing to see. Dangerous tackle on the day was laid against Taron Thomas here, but the MRO decided that this was nothing. The MRO must have decided that nothing more than a free kick needed to be paid for this, and I personally agree as well. The MRO have graded that this dangerous tackle was nothing more than a free, and I personally agree here as well. Pedler does have the ball above his head and he does go down to the ground pretty hard, but he did have the option to put his hands out and protect himself. I don't think he hit his head, so I think this one is totally fine. Josh Battle has been hit head high by Eric Hipwood, but this was during the play and Eric Hipwood didn't brace for contact. I think this one is just one of those unfortunate hits where two players are running in opposite directions and they make contact. I'm glad the MRO didn't look at this one anything further. This is just something that unfortunately does happen in the game. Play on. Lemons from the Suns is pretty lucky in my opinion to not receive a fine for his head high hit on Curtis Taylor. As you can see, he sort of does swing the arm and it does make contact with the chin or head. So in my opinion, I actually think he's pretty lucky to get away with a fine, to get away with no fine rather, and not even a free kick. I think the MRO might have missed this one. Toby Bedford from the GWS Giants has been charged with rough conduct, which was his second offence against Zach Fisher from Carlton. This happened in the third quarter and the MRO graded it as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. For this hit, he will be missing one match. Apologise for the quality of the footage, this is all I could find. Does look like he makes a bump, I'm not sure if it's head high. The quality is that bad, it's hard to say, but the MRO have given him a week. Jacob Wiedering from Carlton has been charged with unreasonable or unnecessary contact to the eye region, which is his first offence for the night, on none other than Toby Green from the GWS Giants. This happened in the second quarter. The MRO graded this as careless conduct, low impact, high contact. For this, he has been given a $3,000 sanction with an early plea, $2,000. I think this call is about right. I don't think we can always slow everything down. I think watching this at full speed, he sort of does try to get his hand around his neck. I'm not sure, maybe around his throat, I'm not entirely sure, but it doesn't look like he's going for the eye. It's not an eye gouge, he just unfortunate contact with the eye, therefore just a fine. I think this is about right for me. Somehow Ollie Lord has escaped any sort of fine or suspension for his head high hit on this Richmond player. I can't actually make out who it is, let me know in the comments. I thought the head was so-called sacrosanct, not entirely sure why this doesn't get looked at. For me personally, this should be a fine, whether it's an open hand, should be a fine, closed fist, should be a suspension. What do you think? Matt Rowell and Kane Turner from Gold Coast Suns and North Melbourne respectively have been charged with engaging in a melee. This happened in the second quarter. It's a fixed financial sanction of $1,500 with an early plea can be downgraded to $1,000. I can sort of understand why Matt Rowell was picked out here, but not entirely sure why Kane Turner was. Can you let me know in the comments below why you think he was picked out as an offender? This one I found a little bit funny. You can see Grimes does tackle Rosie, and on the replay you can see Rosie's head doesn't look like it hits the ground, but he fakes like it does and gets a free kick in front of goal.
Watch the Grimes follow-up here, really, he's fantastic.
Jai Simpkin has been charged with rough conduct against Noah Anderson in the second quarter. The MRO graded this as intentional conduct, low impact, body contact. For this, he's been given a $3,000 sanction, which can be downgraded to $2,000 with an early plea. And that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching. I'll hopefully be doing some videos next week as well on the finals matchup. I'll hopefully get the oddities video out before that. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Be sure to leave the word snags in the comment. See you next time. Braden Maynard from Collingwood Magpies has been sent straight to the tribunal, which means it would most likely be a 3-week suspension for his bump on Angus Brayshaw. But as we know, tonight, Tuesday night, as I'm recording this, Maynard is free to play. The Collingwood lawyers were successful in arguing that Maynard had no other option but to brace for impact when he hit Brayshaw. Although the Pies have the week off, Maynard is available to play the week after. I personally believe this is the right outcome. The only other thing that I think Maynard could have done is when going for the smother, he could have jumped straight up. But obviously hindsight is 20/20. As everyone says, this is a footy act. I don't think there was any ill intentions towards Brayshaw. I honestly wasn't surprised that he got off, and I think that is the right outcome. Jack Martin received a 2-week suspension for this hit on Nick Blakey. Carlton decided to take this to tribunal, and in the end they have been successful in reducing this from a 2-week suspension down to a 1-week suspension. Carlton argued that this was not a high impact hit but a medium impact hit, and the AFL agreed, the MRO agreed, therefore his suspension has been reduced from 2 weeks down to 1. I think 2 weeks is about right. I'm not upset that it's downgraded to 1. I think that's fine. It's a cowardly act. It's definitely not a footy play. Has no reason to be in the sport. I think missing the final against Port Adelaide is very important, so I think he has learned his lesson. Well, I hope so. Jacob Van Rooyen has been suspended for 1 week for his head-high hit on Dan McStay. The AFL actually haven't released what the contact is, but I'd say it's a careless conduct, high impact. So I think a week is about right for me. It didn't look like there was too much in it, but he did get him head high and he's overrun the ball. So yeah, definitely a suspension for me, and 1 week is about right. I'm a little bit disappointed that Tom Mitchell received no fine here for this flop. I absolutely hate it in the game. I think they should be giving out fines for stupid stuff like this. Get rid of it. I know he was remonstrating for his teammate, but Jack Viney has absolutely gone back at Maynard and he's sort of throwing him around a little bit, and this causes a bit of a fight between the players, but it looks like he received no fine for this, which I was quite surprised at actually. Usually they hand these fines out like no one's business. Thank you to the person who pointed out that this was actually McInerney, not Melican, my bad, but I'm glad to see no fine or suspension has been for this tackle. It was paid a free kick. It looks like his shoulder makes contact with the ground, and I don't think his head makes contact with the ground. Therefore, just a free kick is fine. Anyway, that's it. Just a small amount of games this week, so obviously the suspensions video isn't going to be very long. And again, next week there's only 2 games on, so the suspension video is going to be quite short. But thank you for watching. If you like these update videos, please do subscribe and like, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Richmond co-captain Toby Nankervis is facing at least 3 weeks on the sidelines after being sent straight to the tribunal for his high bump on Sydney's Jake Lloyd. The MRO officer graded this as severe impact, high contact and careless conduct. Due to the concussion protocols, Lloyd will not be playing next week as well. Oddly enough, during the rest of the game, Nankervis was one of the best players for the Tigers, but unfortunately it looks like he will be missing at least 3 weeks. What's your opinion on this? Does Toby Nankervis's previous history come into play here, or is this a simple fact that he got him high, he chose to bump, therefore it's 3 weeks? For this bump, I think 3 weeks is fair. Andrew Phillips has been given a 1-match suspension for his rough conduct charge against Riley O'Brien, the Sunday match against the Adelaide Crows. This happened in the 4th quarter, and Andrew Phillips has been charged with careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. As you can see, it looks like he makes contact with Riley O'Brien's chin, and any head-high contact, as far as I'm aware, at least for this week, thanks MRO, this is a 1-match suspension. What are your opinions on this? Nankervis got 3 weeks for probably a bit harsher hit, but Phillips here does hit him high in the mouth, and this is only 1 week. So why the 2 week difference? Leave a comment below what you think. Both Tom Mitchell and Marcus Bontempelli from Collingwood and Western Bulldogs respectively have been charged with careless contact with an umpire. As this was Tom Mitchell's second offence for contact with an umpire, he was given a $2,500 sanction, which with an early plea can be downgraded to $1,500. For Marcus Bontempelli, this is a $1,500 sanction, which can be early plead down to $1,000. I'm not sure why this week this was a fine, whereas last week or two we've seen very similar incidents and none of these were reported and no fines were given. I actually thought they might have come to the senses and thought this was incidental, but apparently not. This is now worth $1,500 at the absolute minimum again. What's your opinions on this? I think this is pretty harsh. I said this in the oddities video that I thought Caleb Serong might be in trouble for this tackle here on Adam Cerra. It actually turns out I was correct. It is a 1 match sanction for his rough conduct against Adam Cerra in the second quarter of the Sunday game. The MRO graded this as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. Interestingly enough, during the game, even the umpire, who was very close, did not pay this as a free kick. So during the middle of the game, it's not even worth a free kick, but after they watch it a million times, it's worth a 1 match suspension. What are your thoughts on that? Both Jacob Hopper and James Rowbottom from Richmond and Sydney Swans respectively have been charged with careless contact with an umpire, which is both their first offence. This happened in the second quarter of the Thursday night game. This is a fixed financial sanction, which is a $1,500 fine, which can be downgraded to $1,000. Very similar to the Mitchell and Bontempelli one. Not entirely sure why they should be fined here. Honestly, don't see that much of an issue. I don't think they've done it intentionally, but apparently this is worth $1,000. Nick Haynes from GWS has been given a 1 match sanction for his rough conduct dangerous tackle against Joshua Ward of Hawthorn. This happened Saturday in the third quarter. The MRO graded this as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact, and again this is worth a 1 match suspension. The tackle here does look a little bit more brutal, as you can see the face does hit the ground, so I think 1 match suspension for this one does seem about right for me. What are your thoughts? James Jordan from Melbourne Footy Club has been charged with careless contact with an umpire, which is his first offence. This happened in the third quarter of the Saturday night game, and this is a fixed financial sanction of $1,500. With an early plea, this can be downgraded to $1,000. It almost looks like he pushes other players, which then make contact with the umpire. It's a little bit hard to see unless this isn't the vision, but this is the only sort of contact with the umpire that I could find. But yeah, very interesting to see that this is worth a $1,000 fine. What do you think about that? Charlie Ballard from the Gold Coast Suns has been charged with tripping, which was his second offence against Zach Butters from Port Adelaide, the Saturday night game. This happened in the second quarter. It was ruled it was intentional conduct, low impact and body contact. For this intentional trip, he's been fined $5,000 with an early plea. This can be downgraded to $3,000. That's quite a hefty fine for a trip, and again, no free kick paid during the middle of the game, but the MRO watched this after and give it a minimum $3,000 fine. Sam Powell-Pepper has been charged with forceful front-on contact against Darcy McPherson from the Gold Coast Suns. This happened in the third quarter of the Saturday night game. The MRO classed this as careless conduct, low impact, high contact, and for this he's been given a $3,000 fine. With an early plea, this can be downgraded to $2,000. This is a pretty unusual one. You don't see too many forceful front-on contact charges, and I guess $2,000 is better than a suspension. And lastly, I couldn't find the footage of this, but Josh Rochelle from the Crows has been charged with tripping Andrew McGrath from Essendon in the first quarter. The MRO charged this as intentional conduct, low impact and body contact. For this, he's been given a $3,000 sanction with an early plea, can be downgraded to $2,000. Anyway, thanks for watching this week's video on suspensions. If you're new, please do subscribe. If not, like the video, leave your comments below. I'll see you next week. Matthew Johnson from Fremantle has been given a 2-match sanction for his dangerous tackle. This was graded as careless conduct, high impact and high contact. Dane Zorko was clearly confused and hurt from this dangerous tackle.
And then slung him to the ground. That's an absolute no-no. That is the one action we are stamping out of the game. And I don't think Johnson's sits it up.
Sam Durham from Essendon has been given a one-match sanction for his dangerous tackle against Mark Blitzars. This was graded as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact.
Floats it up.
Sam Petreski-Seaton has been given a one-match sanction for his dangerous tackle on Alex Sincotta. This was graded as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact.
Sincotta dumped in the tackle, dangerous one. Petreski-Seaton. Sincotta dumped.
Xavier O'Halloran has been given a $1,500 sanction. With an early plea, this can be downgraded to $1,000 for engaging in a melee wrestling. Unsure why he was the only one given this fine.
Push and shove. Big second half to come.
Tom Mitchell has been charged with attempting to trip Brodie Smith. For this, he's been given a $1,500 sanction. With an early plea, this can be downgraded to $1,000. And that's it for this week. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week for the next suspension video. Shane McAdam was referred straight to the tribunal for this hit on Jacob Ware. After hours of deliberation, the tribunal decided to give Shane McAdam a 3-week suspension, which the Adelaide Crows are challenging. The tribunal argued that there was the potential to cause injury, and this is the reason why it is a 3-game suspension.
Set himself, followed through laws to ease it.
There's Ash. Brings it back into play. It landed between four. Oh, he's ironed him out.
Isaiah Pickett has been charged with rough conduct on Bailey Smith in the second quarter against the Western Bulldogs. This was graded as careless conduct, high impact, high contact. He was given a 2-week suspension for this.
13-point lead, margin is 8. Here's the hit. Lead margin is 8. Here's the hit.
Buddy Franklin has been charged with rough conduct on Sam Collins. This was graded as careless conduct, medium impact, high contact. For this, he is going to be sitting out for 1 week.
He charges at the ball.
Is it a glancing blow, or do we need to see another angle here to see?
Tom Barras has been charged with careless conduct, medium impact, body contact, and his sanction is $3,000 or $2,000 for an early plea for his striking action on Charlie Comben.
I think he's just been winded. Yeah.
Essendon defender Jaden Laverde can accept a $2,000 fine for tripping Hawthorn forward Luke Bruce during the Bombers' win on Sunday.
Luke Bruce coming in here. Laverde just kicks that leg out. It should have been a trip, should have been a shot at goal for Luke Bruce.
And lastly, I was unable to find footage of this, but Darcy Byrne-Jones has been charged with tripping on Zach Bailey, and this is a fixed financial sanction of $1,500 or $1,000 for an early plea. And that's it for the suspensions and fines for Round 1 2023. After receiving the ball, Switkowski is dump tackled by Taylor Adams. The MRO did not look at this one, so there's no fine and no suspension for Taylor Adams. And for me, I think that's about right. Does look like a pretty good tackle, looks fair and clean. I'm happy that this is no fine or suspension. Jordan Boyd from Carlton has been hit with a rough conduct charge, dangerous tackle against Darcy Byrne-Jones from Port Adelaide. This happened in the second quarter. The MRO class this as careless conduct, severe impact and high contact. He's been sent straight to the tribunal, which means this will be at least 3 weeks. What are your opinions on this? Do you think this tackle is worth 3 weeks? I'm not sure about 3 weeks personally. Darcy Parish has received no fine or no suspension for this so-called dangerous tackle on Tanner Bruin. Therefore, he is free to play next week. Quickly, I just want to say a big thank you to all my supporters. You can become a channel member in the link below. More importantly, I've set up a new landline phone that you can call and you can leave a message. It will go to me and I can answer your questions. I'm going to start a new series where I answer your questions on AFL. They're obviously just my personal opinions, but if you'd like to hear a little bit more, please call the number on the screen. It'll ring for a few seconds and then go straight to voicemail. Leave me a message and let's create a new series together of asking me questions about AFL or other things AFL related. Let's give it a crack and see what it's like. Dustin Martin is pretty lucky to get away with just a striking offence here against Alex Witherden, where he elbows him in the stomach. As you know, Slobbo absolutely hates him, so he went on a massive rant. This happened in the second quarter. The MRO classed this as intentional conduct, low impact, body contact. For this, it's a $5,000 sanction with an early plea can be downgraded to $3,000. Do you agree with Robbo? Do you think this should have been a week for Dusty? Josh Rochelle has absolutely lost his mind here. He's actually struck Jack Buckley in the face with what looks like a little right hook. This happened in the second quarter. It was classed as intentional conduct, medium impact and high contact. For this massive brain fade, Josh Rochelle is going to be out for 2 weeks. Dane Rampy has been hit with a rough conduct charge, which was an off-the-ball bump against Lockie McNeil from the Western Bulldogs. This happened in the first quarter. The MRO graded this as careless conduct, high impact and high contact. For this, he has been given a 2-week suspension. Do you think a bump off the ball when the player is not expecting it is worth a 2-week suspension? He did bump him off the ball. Obviously the player wouldn't have been able to see the bump coming, but I'm not entirely sure a 2-week ban is right for this. Definitely a fine, maybe 1 week at absolute most. 2 weeks seems very harsh for a bump that seems to happen every week. What are your thoughts on this? Braden Maynard has absolutely slammed Michael Walters here in this tackle. The MRO did not look at this one and made no sanctions in the way of fines or suspension. It was a legal tackle. Walters was probably off balance as he was trying to kick the ball. Play on. Very interesting to see that no one was cited for any sort of engaging in a melee here. I thought there might have been something, as the fighting did seem to go on for a little bit longer, but apparently the AFL and the MRO decided that no charges would be laid here. Zach Merritt from Essendon has been charged with staging. As you can see, Mark O'Connor taps him on the back and he over-exaggerated the contact, Zach Merritt. This happened in the first quarter. This is a fixed financial sanction, which is $1,500, which can be downgraded to $1,000 with an early plea. I wasn't able to find any footage of this, but apparently Jai Newcomb from Hawthorn has been charged with striking Harry Sheasel from North Melbourne. This happened in the second quarter and the MRO graded this as intentional conduct, low impact and body contact. For that, it's a $3,000 fine, which can be reduced to $2,000 with an early plea. Another off-the-ball incident, this one including Marlon Pickett, who has blocked Jeremy McGovern from contesting the ball. It's an off-the-ball hit technically, I guess, because he wasn't contesting the ball itself. He was charged with a rough conduct charge in the fourth quarter. This was classed as careless conduct, low impact and body contact. For this, it's a $3,000 sanction, which can be downgraded with an early plea to $2,000. Harry Perryman and Josh Rochelle have both been charged with engaging in a melee, which is their first offence of the night. This happened in the second quarter. It's a fixed financial sanction of $1,500, which can be downgraded to $1,000 with an early plea. I know Rochelle was definitely off that night, but I think this is pretty harsh on him for him to cop the fine as well. As you can see, Perryman absolutely slams Rochelle after the ball and the play has been stopped, and for some reason, because he retaliated to the hit himself, he cops a fine for that. I think that's pretty unfair. What do you think? And then again, Josh Rochelle, misconduct charge against Connor Idun for the elbow to the throat of Connor Idun. I really don't like this one. As you know, I am a Crow supporter, but I really do not like to see this in footy. After the ball is considered dead, he goes in with the elbow into Connor Idun's throat. I think they should totally rule this out of the game. It might be a little bit over the top for me, but I think this should be an instant suspension. This is absolutely not footy. This is not the MMA. We don't need that in the game. Get rid of it. A week suspension, I think. But for this, he copped a $1,500 fine. With an early plea, this can be downgraded to $1,000. The Sydney runner here is very lucky not to receive a fine. I guess the club would have got the fine for this. As you can see, the runner actually throws the boot in the end back to Callum Mills, who lost the boot. It came very close to hitting the umpire, and if it did, I'm sure it would be quite a hefty fine for the club. So just be a little bit more careful next time. I said this in the oddities video, Van Rooyen either gets a shove or he flops for a free kick here. I think there's three options: either pay the free kick, there's minor contact, no charge, or the third, Van Rooyen gets a fine for flopping. It happens in the AFL way too many times. We don't want this to become soccer. Let's stop this. Give them a fine. If they flop, give them a fine. That's my opinion. What do you think? Zach Merritt was charged with a staging free, so why is this not a staging free as well? Taron Thomas from North Melbourne has been charged with striking Mitch Lewis from Hawthorn in the second quarter. The MRO graded this as intentional conduct, low impact and body contact. For this, Taron Thomas is facing a $3,000 sanction, which can be downgraded to $2,000 with an early plea. Cam Rayner has absolutely slammed Rayshaw's head into the ground, but the MRO did not even look at this once. I guess because he didn't come off with concussion, the MRO do not look at it. I honestly thought this would have been looked at a little bit more closely than this. Jerry from North Melbourne has been charged with striking Connor Nash in the third quarter. This is a fixed financial sanction of $2,500, which can be downgraded to $1,500 with an early plea. I was unable to find any better footage than this. The only other charge that I was unable to find footage of was Luke Davies-Uniacke from North Melbourne was charged with careless contact with an umpire, which was his first offence in the fourth quarter. This was graded as careless contact with an umpire, which is a $1,500 fine. With an early plea, can be downgraded to $1,000. Thanks for watching the video. If you want to do a Q&A with me, please call that number in the video earlier. I'll post it here now. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Brad Close has been suspended for 1 match for his dangerous tackle on Jordan Dawson. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact.
It's a free kick. It was in the back. Dumping, slinging tackle.
Footballers, have a close look at this. Oh, that's probably right.
Junior Rioli has been sent direct to Tribunal, which is most likely 3+ matches, for his strike on Jordan Ridley in the second quarter. This was classed as careless conduct, severe impact and high contact.
Oh, he left the ground and clearly got him a bit high. So
Nick Newman has been given a 1-match ban for his hit on Brisbane midfielder Lachie Neale. This was classed as intentional, low impact and high contact, which results in a 1-match suspension.
Oh, there we are. Elbow under the chin, hard to argue.
Tyler Brockman has been suspended for 1 match for his dangerous tackle on Brandon Walker. This was graded as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact.
So the free kick will go the way of the Dockers. Just laid the slipper into it. The ball going forward. Walker got there first, a dumping tackle from Brockman.
The MRO has given a 2-week suspension to Jacob Van Rooyen for a striking hit on Charlie Ballard. This was classed as careless conduct, high impact and high contact. As I said, this is 2 weeks and Melbourne are challenging this at the Tribunal on Tuesday night.
He did have an issue just before half-time.
Clayton Oliver got away with this one, as we saw Tom Mitchell last week get a suspension for attempted tripping. For this, Clayton Oliver got nothing. Connor Rozee has been given a $4,000 fine, downgraded to $2,500 for careless contact with an umpire. He hits Razor A and Connor Rozee is the one who goes down to ground.
Stringer, 1-on-1 with Wines.
Matt Flynn from GWS has avoided any sort of sanction here for his hit on McRae. I think this is right, as McRae is the one who ducks his head.
When someone's got their head already over the ball, so a bit reckless there from Flynn.
Jai Simpkin has been hit with a misconduct charge. This is for throwing away the GPS of Matthias Filippo. This was a $1,500 fine, downgraded to $1,000 with an early plea.
They created this opportunity and ultimately the goal.
That is 50, misconduct.
to see.
You've got it. Thank you. Down the line. You know it's thought you've tried. Misconduct. Right on the line, thank you. To the line.
Crack, and then next one over the top. And Tucker's now paid the price.
Okay, here we go. Tom Papley, Braden Maynard, Isaac Quainer, Will Hayward, Mark Sheether, Josh Dacos, Ryan Clark, Brodie Myercheck, Tom McCartan have all been given anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 fine for engaging in a melee wrestling. These can all be downgraded to $1,000 or $1,500. Jeremy Cameron got nothing for this, for his almost dangerous tackle on Lockie Scholl. No fine or anything.
Keep you up to date. Scholl tossed aside like a rag doll by Cameron.
And lastly, Rory Laird has been charged with rough conduct, dangerous tackle against Tanner Bruhn. This was a $3,000 sanction with a $2,000 early plea. This was graded as careless conduct, low impact and high contact. And that's it for this week. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Ben Keys has been charged with misconduct for ripping off the glasses of Mason Cox in the fourth quarter. For this, he's been given a $1,500 sanction with an early plea. It can be reduced down to $1,000. The matchday report laid against St Kilda's Liam Stocker from the second quarter of the Friday night game between St Kilda and Brisbane Lions has been assessed and thrown out. It was the view of the MRO that the tackle did not constitute a reportable offence because no high contact actually occurred, so no further action was taken. I'm glad to see that the MRO did not fine either of these two for their little wrestling thing here. I think this is fine, just a little bit of banter.
Making life a little bit tricky. Blank under the pump. He can't afford to fumble. He's got Hardwick there. A little tangle.
The matchday report laid against St Kilda's Max King from the second quarter of Friday night's game between St Kilda and Brisbane Lions has also been assessed. It was in the view of the MRO that there was insufficient force to constitute a reportable offence, so no further action has been taken.
I don't think he's got much to worry about there. Ryan Lass was going off the mark. Well, it looks like he's hardly flicked him. I don't think he's got much to worry about there.
Hawthorn ruckman Lloyd Meek has no case to answer for his high bump on Darcy McPherson late in the first quarter. Interesting to see that earlier in the year we know Shane McAdam was given 3 weeks for the potential to cause injury, but this is nothing. I guess it's probably pretty similar to the Bailey Smith and Cozzy Pickett hits. Tom Stewart has been given a $1,500 sanction, which can be early plead down to $1,000, which is a fixed financial sanction for his unreasonable or unnecessary contact with an injured player, who's Jack Viney. As you can see, this little push here is going to cost him $1,000.
Direct contact, I think, from Stewart there.
Elliot Yeo has tackled Nick Blakey in what could be a potentially dangerous tackle, but the MRO had no look at this at all.
Alongside Lee Montagna and Jared Healy. Saturday Twilight Football.
Tim Kelly has been given a $1,500 sanction, which can be downgraded to $1,000 with an early plea for his careless contact with an umpire in the first quarter. I don't know about you, but I think this one's pretty stiff. Bailey Fritsch is free to play against Greater Western Sydney next week after being cleared of a dangerous tackle on Geelong's Jake Kolajasny. Fritsch's tackle wasn't cited by the MRO on the Friday evening, so he's free to play. And that's it for this week. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, please do leave a like and comment down below. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, and I'll see you next week for the oddities and suspensions videos then. Thanks for watching. Geelong's Brad Close has avoided a second suspension for this year for for this dangerous tackle after the match review officer determined that his tackle on Sydney's Aaron Francis was not careless. It was the view of the MRO that despite having Francis in a vulnerable position, Close attempted to slow momentum in taking him to ground, and that in the circumstances he was not careless in tackling in that manner. No further action was taken. Good to see that this one resulted in no fine and no suspension here. I think it was pretty much the perfect sort of tackle. He probably should have been paid the free kick in my opinion for incorrect disposal, but overall very happy to see that this is no suspension, no fine. This is a good tackle. Francis had the chance to get rid of the ball, he did not, and therefore Close is free to play next week. Cody Waitman from the Western Bulldogs has been hit with a misconduct charge against Brennan Cox from Fremantle in the second quarter of their game. This is a fixed financial sanction of $1,500, and with an early plea this can be downgraded to $1,000. As you can see, Cody sort of pushes Brennan Cox a little bit towards the boundary line. I wouldn't have thought that this was worth a fine. I don't even think it's really worth a free kick. What do you think about this one? I think a $1,000 fine is a little bit rough for nothing really that sinister. As Cody Waitman's reputation cost him a little bit of money here. What do you think? Interesting to see here that Willem Drew and Hobbs both didn't receive a fine or any sort of please explain after they made contact with the umpire here. You can see they're sort of wrestling and they do make contact with the umpire. Typically this results in a fine. As we saw last week, Tim Kelly actually made contact with the umpire, which was very unintentional, but it's actually classed as careless contact with an umpire, and I think it was a $3,000 fine with an early plea downgraded to $2,000. Something along those lines, which seems pretty unfair to Tim Kelly, but then these two get absolutely nothing this week. What do you think about that? Of course, the AFL's love child, Patrick Dangerfield, receives absolutely no fine, suspension or even a please explain for this elbow to the head of Callum Mills. Now I know that might be a bit extreme, me calling him the love child, but Dangerfield seems to get away with a little bit more than the average player. If this was someone else who was recently suspended like Broad from Richmond, he would probably be out for at least a week, I would assume. Not sure how he didn't even cop a fine for this, as he clearly leads with the elbows and hits Callum Mills in the head. This should be a fine at the very least. Yet again, the consistency is all over the place and this just makes no sense to me. What do you think? Should Dangerfield got a fine or a suspension for this? Surely the MRO took a closer look at this one, as Sam Powell-Pepper absolutely cleans up Zerk Thatcher. From the first angle, it looks like Powell-Pepper makes a clean hit on the shoulder and just drops Zerk Thatcher. But from the other one, it almost looks like his elbow does make contact with the head. I'm sure they did go back and watch this one. Nothing came of this, so I'm assuming that he didn't make contact with the head, otherwise it would probably be a fine at the very least, possibly a suspension. But Sam Powell-Pepper is free to play. This one's a little bit hard to see, so I'm not sure if the AFL had access to a different sort of camera angle here, but you can see Jimmy Webster after a tackle leads with the elbow and looks like he hits Luke Shuey in the head. I would have thought the MRO would have liked to see this one. I don't know if there was any sort of report or not, but it looks like he does make contact, so not sure why this wasn't anything. This one goes unlooked at, and I guess it's just play on. What do you think? What should have this been? Probably a fine might be appropriate for this one, as the play has stopped, so there's no need for this. Probably a fine. This one's a little interesting to me. As you can see, Callum Coleman-Jones actually gives away a free kick and a 50-metre penalty for this hard hit. Josh Worrell actually comes in to remonstrate for his teammate, and he is actually fined for engaging in a melee wrestling. This is a fixed financial sanction of $1,500 with an early plea can be downgraded to $1,000. I think this play from Coleman-Jones is pretty dirty. Yes, I am a Crows supporter, but I think that's totally unnecessary, and for him to only cop a 50-metre penalty but then have your teammate come over and stick up for you, and he's the one who cops the fine. That seems a little unfair to me. What do you think? Should this even be a fine? Or should Coleman-Jones receive a fine for this? Brisbane forward Lincoln McCarthy has been banned for one game for striking Richmond's Camden McIntosh during the Lions' win over the Tigers on Thursday night. As you can see, McCarthy and McIntosh engage in a scuffle after a marking contest, where McCarthy has hit McIntosh high. The match review officer assessed the contact as intentional conduct, low impact and high contact, which results in a one-game suspension. This is a pretty textbook jumper punch, and it's going to cost him 1 week. McDonald has tackled Henry, and the umpire classed this as a dangerous tackle, which, looking at it, it probably is correct. It does look a little bit dangerous. The MRO didn't look at this one as there was no need to. Looks like Henry does contribute to the tackle to make it look a bit more dangerous than it probably was. Nothing to see here, both are free to play next week. Campbell Chesser from West Coast, Bailey Williams from West Coast, Luke Shuey from West Coast, Ruben Jinby from West Coast, Mitch Owens from St Kilda and Rowan Marshall from St Kilda have all been charged with engaging in melee wrestling, which is their first offence, in the second quarter of their match on Sunday. This is a fixed financial sanction, which is $1,500 and can be downgraded with an early plea to $1,000. Mitch Duncan has absolutely cleaned up Nick Blakey here. This wasn't looked at by the MRO. It looks like a clean bump, it's just very hard. I think this is fair. Nothing more to see here. Free to play next week. A matchday report was laid against Carlton's Jacob Wiedering for contact to Hawthorn's Lloyd Meek in the third quarter of the Sunday match. This was assessed by the MRO, and after examining all available evidence, it was the view of the MRO that whilst Wiedering does make contact with his left hand to Meek, any high contact that was made was negligible. No further action was taken. Now I thought the head was absolutely sacrosanct, as they always say. I thought any sort of head-high contact was at least worth a week, so why was this one not? McCarthy's punch was worth a week, but Wiedering's open hand to the face is not worth a week. So are the MRO saying that you can do it if it's an open hand but not a closed fist? This is very confusing. What do you think? After Collingwood kicked a goal in the second quarter, Noah Anderson and Mitchell met together and there was a fair bit of pushing and shoving, which ended up as a melee wrestling event, and Noah Anderson was charged with engaging in a melee wrestling, which is a fixed financial sanction, and as you know, this is a $1,500 sanction which can be downgraded to $1,000 with an early plea. While this was off camera, it's a little hard to see who started it, but I'm sure the AFL have another angle which they supplied, and Noah Anderson was the only one who was charged for this little wrestling event here. Taylor Walker from the Crows has been hit with a rough conduct charge for his bump on Taron Thomas in the third quarter of the Saturday game. This was classed as intentional conduct, low impact and body contact. For this, Taylor Walker has received a $3,000 sanction, which can be downgraded to $2,000 with an early plea. As you can see here, it happens slightly down at the bottom of the camera. I'll try my best to focus it, but it's a bump after he disposes of the ball, and I guess due to the severity of the bump, this is worth a $3,000 fine. Usually this is worth a 50-metre penalty, so not sure why this is a fine. Do you agree that the severity is the reason why this was a $3,000 fine? I'm a little bit confused by this one. Let me know what you think. Jared Witts has also been given a rough conduct charge, the same as Taylor Walker, for hitting Taylor Adams in the third quarter against Collingwood on Saturday. The MRO graded this as careless conduct, low impact and high contact. Again, this was a $3,000 sanction with an early plea, can be downgraded to $2,000. As the bump was off the ball, this has been given a fine, so I'm not sure why they're giving this a fine when it should be a free kick. I don't know. Do you think the severity is bad enough to be warranting a fine for this? I'm not entirely sure about that. Let me know what you think about these longer format videos for the suspension, a little bit more discussion. Thank you for watching. If you're new, please do subscribe and like the video. I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Jared Berry has been reported for dangerous tackle on Will Hayward in the third quarter against the Sydney Swans. Thankfully, common sense has prevailed and Berry didn't have Hayward's arms pinned, and you can see he was clearly frustrated by the decision. The MRO stated that it was their view that Berry discharged his duty of care in the manner he took Hayward to ground, and that his actions were not unreasonable in the circumstances. Berry is free to play next week. Matthew Cottrell from the Carlton Footy Club has been given a one-match suspension for his rough conduct, dangerous tackle against Ben Long in the fourth quarter. The MRO graded this as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact.
Yeah, well, you're not allowed to duck your head down into the tackle, but I'm not sure you can rip their head off at the same time afterwards.
We thought he should have had more opportunity this season. The lunge from Owies. Head down from Atkins. There's the Cottrell tackle on Long.
Yeah, well, you're not allowed to duck your head down into the tackle, but I'm not sure you can rip their head off at the same time afterwards.
The MRO have decided to not look into this Taylor kick on Jones, as we know in recent weeks that even the potential to cause injury can end up with a suspension or a fine. This one was overlooked by the MRO.
Plenty of pressure from both teams.
Good turn up there by the North Melbourne forwards. Jones may have hurt himself in that spoil. It was a great spoil.
Lockie Whitfield has been given a one-match sanction for his rough conduct, dangerous tackle against Jordan Clark in the second quarter against Freo. The MRO found this as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact.
So what you've got again is a bloke who's evaded him, encounters a second player, holds on to the ball, tries to get out of that, tackles him.
Sam Wicks from Sydney has been given a two-match sanction for his high hit striking offence against Ryan Lester in the second quarter against the Brisbane Lions. The MRO graded this as careless conduct, high impact and high contact, and again he'll be missing for 2 weeks. Wanganeen Millero has been given a $3,000 sanction with an early plea downgraded to $2,000 for his strike on Dan Rioli in the fourth quarter. The MRO graded this as careless conduct, low impact and high contact.
A bit of an accidental elbow that caught Daniel Rioli, but plenty of time.
And that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching. If you do like these videos, please do leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Hello and welcome back to another suspension video. This week is round 19, and in this first video we can see that Aidan Corr was not cited by the MRO for his hit on St Kilda's Brad Hill. This actually put Brad Hill in hospital with a bruised lung, and this didn't get looked at. I'm not entirely sure how this is so different than the McAdam hit earlier in the year where he got a 3-week suspension for his hit on Jacob Ware. Seems very similar. The MRO cited potential to cause injury. This actually did cause an injury, but this is not even worth a fine. What are your thoughts about that? Leave a comment below. Kane Farrell has been hit with a misconduct charge for his push on Bobby Hill in the third quarter. This is a fixed financial sanction, which is a $1,500 fine, and with an early plea can be downgraded to $1,000. Weirdly enough, this was not paid a free kick on the night, but this is now worth a fine. Do you think that's worth a fine where Bobby Hill's running at full pace and Kane Farrell gives him a slight push? Do you think that's worth a $1,000 fine? What do you think? Not his job. Ben Ainsworth has been hit with a staging fine in the fourth quarter against GWS. This is a fixed financial sanction, which is a $1,500 fine, which can be downgraded to $1,000 with an early plea. Oddly enough, he actually gave away a free kick because Razor Ray actually saw him push Perryman a couple times and then punch him in the bum. I'm assuming Razor Ray didn't like the staging, trying to flop for a free, so he gave away this free kick in spite. I don't mind that at all, actually. Ned Reeves from Hawthorn has been hit with a rough conduct, dangerous tackle charge against Ivan Soldo from Richmond. This happened in the first quarter. The MRO class this as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. And for this he has been given a one-match suspension. This looks like a pretty typical sling tackle to me, so I think going off previous history, 1 week seems about right. Sam Petreski-Seaton from West Coast Eagles has been hit with a rough conduct, dangerous tackle charge against Alex Chincotta from Carlton. This happened in the third quarter, and the MRO class this as careless conduct, high impact and high contact. Another sling tackle, and this will cost him 2 weeks suspension. Do you think the force was enough for this to be 2 weeks compared to the previous video, which was only 1 week? What do you think about that? Willie Rioli from Port Adelaide has been hit with a striking charge against Nathan Murphy from Collingwood. This happened in the fourth quarter. The MRO initially graded this as intentional conduct, medium impact and high contact. For this, Willie Rioli was given a 2-match sanction. Port Adelaide took this to the Tribunal and they fought it and they kind of won, but he's still suspended for 1 match, downgraded from 2. Paul Curtis from North Melbourne and Jack Sinclair from St Kilda have both been charged with engaging in a melee. This happened in the third quarter of their clash. The MRO gave them both fixed financial sanction, as this was Paul Curtis's second offence. It was a $2,500 fine, downgraded to $1,500, and for Jack Sinclair it was a $1,500 fine, downgraded to $1,000 with an early plea. Tyson Stengel from the Geelong Cats has been hit with a striking charge for his hit on Dane Zorko from the Brisbane Lions. This happened in the fourth quarter of their clash. The MRO classed this as careless conduct, low impact and high contact. For this hit, he has been given a $3,000 fine, which can be downgraded to $2,000 with an early plea. And I didn't see this one, but Jaden Laverty from Essendon has been hit with a striking charge on Riley West from the Western Bulldogs. This happened in the second quarter. The MRO graded this as intentional conduct, low impact and body contact. For this, he has been given a $3,000 fine, which can be downgraded to $2,000 with an early plea. And that's it for this week. Thanks again, and be sure to look out for the oddities video. Hopefully I'll have that out in the next day or so. And I'll also do another episode of the Talkback if I can. And if you made it this far, please do leave a comment below. I'm hopefully going to be doing a live stream of the Friday night game for some commentary, and also just a Let's Chat online for the, I guess, YouTube Live. So hang around for that if you want to have a look at it. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. See ya. Thanks for watching, guys. If you would like to join the channel as a member, please click the join button there or in the description. It starts off as only $1.49 a month and it helps me out massively. If you would like to join, please click the join button. Alright, let's get to the video. Tom Jonas from Port Adelaide has been offered a one-match sanction for his careless conduct, medium impact and high contact hit on Jai Cully. Callan Ward has been offered a one-match sanction for his dangerous tackle against Lachie Neale. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact.
And this is where we don't want to get to.
The toe poke down to 5 seconds left. Is that ball? Did he take him on?
Gets to the back of the contest.
Jesse Motlop has been offered a one-match sanction for his dangerous tackle against Dougal Howard. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. Interesting to see that this wasn't even paid a free kick during the moment, but this is worth 1 week now.
I'd like to say that, Tim, but I don't know. What do you think? Is it a dangerous tackle or not?
As per usual. Howard, good tackle, whatnot.
Andrew Brayshaw has avoided any sanction for this bump on Tom De Bretore. De Bretore was actually concussed after the incident and he will miss the clash against Hawthorn. The MRO said Brayshaw was reasonable and the contact was caused by circumstances out of the control of Brayshaw.
That's the amazing hunt that goes on and on.
Jai Caldwell has avoided a suspension, but he's been given a $3,000 sanction for his intentional conduct, low impact, body contact strike on Nick Dacos.
Slow to get up.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it?
Miller's tackle here on James Jordan is apparently fine. The MRO didn't even look at this one.
Advantage is paid. There's no time to draw breath. Jordan cuts back inboard. Miller got him in the tackle. Play on's the call. Chance back inboard. Miller got him in the tackle.
I think this happened off camera and I was unable to find the actual footage, but James Sicily and Darcy Fogarty have both been fined for wrestling. Darcy Fogarty was given a $2,500 sanction and Sicily $1,500. Both of them are reduced to $1,500 and $1,000 respectively. I was unable to find the footage. Cam Zerha has hit Powell and Powell had to go off for a HIA. In the end he was able to play the rest of the game and the MRO did not view this anymore.
Stevenson rolls it in the Zerha direction. Have dropped and not dropped. Three-time Hawthorn Premiership star retired. North views their sub. Phillips is out. Shields is in. Stevens.
Mitch Duncan has avoided any sort of sanction. It was of the view that the MRO said Duncan's actions were not unreasonable in the circumstances. No further action was taken.
Duncan, he's about to grab the football. Robbie Fox comes sliding him, turns around, looks at the ball. Now you slow it down, it looks a little different, but Mitch Duncan's got to protect himself at some point.
I was unable to find footage, but Dylan Shiel has been given a fixed financial sanction of $1,500 or $1,000 with an early plea for his careless conduct with an umpire. This also included Jordan De Goey somehow, who received no fine. And Sam Sturt from Fremantle has been given a $3,000 sanction with an early plea, can be downgraded to $2,000 for his intentional conduct, low impact body contact for a trip on Adam Treloar. Carlton's Patrick Cripps has escaped any sort of sanction, not a fine or a suspension for this dumping tackle. It's not too dissimilar from Liam Duggan's tackle, which we'll see in just a moment. Either both of them have to be a suspension or a fine, or none of them. On last week's video, we had 27.9% of the people that watched were subscribed, so if you do like this content and want to see more suspension videos, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Alright, let's continue. Jordan De Goey has been referred straight to the tribunal, which means this will be at least a 3-week suspension. I think they might use the Stewart vs Prestia as evidence, and I think De Goey will be most likely missing 4 weeks. We will find this out on Tuesday night. This was classed as rough conduct, careless conduct, severe impact and high contact. Liam Duggan from West Coast Eagles has been charged with rough conduct against Taylor Adams. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. For this, he has been given a 1-match suspension.
Now Ginby trying to shrug off Johnson. Excellent tackle. In fact, Hill was able to knock it clear. And the free kick goes the way of Bobby Hill.
James Harms has been given a 1-match suspension for his rough conduct on Matt Cottrell. This was graded as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact.
It's trouble. I mean, I think there's head contact there, was there? Because if he wasn't, it's trouble. I mean, I think there's head contact there, was there?
Interesting to see that this was not a fine for tripping. In the last couple of weeks we've seen fines given for attempted tripping, and he's clearly tripped him here, but no fine. Again, this was another attempted trip. I wasn't able to see it myself, but one of the viewers have said that there was a slight trip, so this one let go, which makes sense, it was accidental. But the one before with Miller was a clear intentional trip. That should have been a fine. And this one for me, I'm a little bit on the fence. Jack Zeeble is going for the ball. He probably doesn't need to put his knee up here, but he makes head-high contact, which eventually knocks the Essendon attacker out. It's just strange how this is in a contest and this is allowed, but in a tackle where they're fighting for the ball, a slight little head tap on the ground like you saw Duggan gets a week, but this doesn't even get looked at. I was unable to find anything on the Sunday game, so I assume that means there's no suspensions or no fines for that. And I guess that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. If you like these sorts of videos, please consider subscribing to the channel. Adam Cerra has been given 1-match suspension for his rough conduct dangerous tackle charge against Tom Hickey in the 3rd quarter. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact.
Yes.
Zach Butters was lucky to get away with nothing here. I believe he was looking at the ball. He probably didn't know Pickett was there, so that's why he didn't receive a fine for this.
Settled in really well and looks to be, loving his footy.
This is where they're done.
Marshall and Sinclair are probably a little bit lucky here for not getting a dangerous tackle charge with their tackle on Will Day.
Full substitution, guys.
Thanks, Jonesy.
Dustin Martin has been given a $3,000 sanction with an early plea of $2,000 for his strike on Daniel Houston. This was graded as intentional conduct, low impact and body contact.
Today, it must be strange indeed knowing that Damien Hardwick isn't in charge. Instead he's sitting on the couch. I think that might have got...
Ed Curnow is a little lucky here that he didn't get a fine or potentially a suspension for his dangerous tackle against James Rowbottom.
Result, free kick. Rowbottom. Upended, little dangerously.
Rory Laird has been given a 1-match suspension for his rough conduct dangerous tackle against Lachie Neale in the 3rd quarter. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact.
Mr. goes with the fist. Oh, is that a dumping?
Luke Parker has also been given a week for his rough conduct dangerous tackle against Sam Walsh in the third quarter. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact.
That was called from a non-controlling umpire about 80 metres off the ball, but he
spills to Walsh. Parker with a big tackle.
James Sicily has been given a week for his careless conduct against Anthony Caminiti in the third quarter. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact as he runs past the ball and hits Caminiti head high.
Hine might work out for him. Caminiti. Sicily with...
Yago Mira has also been given a week for his rough conduct dangerous tackle charge against Charlie Spargo in the third quarter. This was also classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact.
Big leap from Cox. Spoil and spoil all day. Spargo. Is that a dangerous tackle?
Dane Zorko has been given a week for his eye gouge on Luke Pedler in the first quarter. This was classed as intentional conduct, low impact and high contact.
He knew the kick was given, so he just thought he'd wipe a little mayo on top of it. Looked inside, went to Pedler. That looked a little high from here.
And lastly, it's good to see that the AFL players are finally starting to understand about the dangerous tackle. As you can see, Cozzy Pickett here probably had the chance to absolutely slam his defender, but he decides at the last minute not to. Anyway, what did you guys think of the suspensions this week? There are a lot of people who will be missing next week. Let me know in the comments below about your opinions on the suspensions and fines this week. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next week. James Sicily has been sent straight to the tribunal, which looks like it's going to be at least 3 matches for his dangerous tackle on Hugh McCluggage. This was classed as careless conduct, severe impact and high contact. And again guys, thank you so much for watching. If you do like this sort of content, then please do subscribe. Only 35% of you who watch the videos are subscribed, so let's try and aim for 50%. So if you're new here and you like these videos, please do subscribe. Alright, let's continue. Liam Baker has been offered a $3,000 sanction, which can be downgraded to $2,000 with an early plea for his striking contact on Luke Ryan. This was classed as intentional conduct, low impact and body contact.
Baker was never going to shirk that, even though he knew Ryan was coming, but he's thrown the elbow. Ryan has gone to ground. Wonder whether it's more.
Western Bulldogs captain Marcus Bontempelli has avoided suspension after his shoulder-on-shoulder contact was not referred any further by the MRO, and finally some common sense prevails here. The Bont is free to play.
The close-up, and the tip of the shoulder looks like it might have got him on the head. Close-up, and the tip of the shoulder looks like it might have got him on the head.
Dan Butler was charged with a rough conduct, dangerous tackle on Nick Blakey in the third quarter. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. He was given a 1-match sanction for this. The St Kilda Footy Club took this to tribunal and they won. Dan Butler is free to play.
Free kick's been paid. Free kick's been paid.
Is that a dangerous tackle?
Christian Salem has been given a $5,000 sanction, which can be downgraded to $3,000 with an early plea for his striking offence against Harvey Harrison in the fourth quarter. This was classed as careless conduct, medium impact, body contact.
Cameron out the back door. Adams squirts the handball to Harrison.
No charges were laid for Smith on Murphy tackle here. I think this was the right decision. I think a free kick is all about it needed to be.
Murphy not looking so good.
I think Graham's probably a little bit lucky to get away with nothing here. I think Johnson definitely helped make it look a lot severe than what it was, but Graham has to be very careful with taking the player down to ground because this could have resulted in a suspension, but he is free to play. Ryan Mansell has been charged with rough conduct for his head-high bump on James Aish in the fourth quarter. This was classed as careless conduct, severe impact and high contact. He was sent directly to Tribunal where it was at least 3 matches, and tonight he has been given a 3-match sanction.
Shoulder on shoulder. Goodness. Shoulder on shoulder.
Essendon captain Zach Merritt has avoided any sort of suspension or fine for his tackle on Alex Chincotta on Sunday night. The MRO had a look at this and believed the tackle was fair, and Merritt did everything in his power to not hurt the opposition. Rhett Bazzo has also avoided any sort of sanction here for his pinning the arms dumping tackle on Luke Pedlar. I thought this might have been looked at a little bit closer than what it was, but nothing to see here. Both free to play next week. Ross's dangerous tackle on Amadi also received no sort of sanction, not even a fine. I think this is about right. It looks like Amadi does sort of bounce his head to get the free. Nothing to see here, both free to play next week.
This time too vigorous, said the umpire. And Joel Amati, the sub for the Swans.
Scrimshaw is also free to play after his dangerous tackle on Bailey. I think this one is totally fair. I don't even think this should be a free kick. He's tackling while he kicks and he falls down. He does hit him on the side, but I think this one is fine. Should be play on. Shouldn't even be a free kick in my opinion. Tim English didn't receive a fine or anything for his knee into Scott Lysette. Earlier in the year we did see this paid as a fixed financial sanction, but nothing to see here, and I think this is fair. Lysette looks like he's going to go up for the ruck and then decides not to, so I think it's unfair to give English a fine for this. This is nothing but a free kick play on. And Toby Green's probably a little bit lucky here that he didn't actually connect with the North Melbourne defender. If he did, I think this would probably be a fine. As we know, studs up Toby is not a good result. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you do like these videos, please do remember to subscribe and like the video. It helps out the YouTube algorithm heaps and it gets this video shown to a lot of new members. So thanks for watching and I'll see you next week. Thanks. Ben Keys from the Adelaide Crows has avoided any sort of sanction or fine for his contact with Razor Ray. As this contact was most likely incidental, there was no fine. Blank received no suspension for this chicken wing tackle on Caminiti. The MRO did not even look at this one. What are your thoughts?
Tackled in a fair tackle. He just gets crunched on that blank tackle on second looks. Just gets in a really awkward position. An old-fashioned chicken wing, but not on purpose.
Patrick Cripps from Carlton has been charged with rough conduct against Isaac Quainer from Collingwood. This happened in the fourth quarter and the MRO graded this as intentional conduct, low impact and body contact. For this, Paddy Cripps has been given a $3,000 sanction, which can be downgraded to $2,000 with an early plea. Jordan Dawson from the Adelaide Crows has been charged with careless contact with an umpire, which was his first offence. This happened in the second quarter. It's a fixed financial sanction of $1,500, which can be downgraded to $1,000 with an early plea. No charges were laid for the Brisbane Lions or the Gold Coast Suns for this melee, which is strange as there were quite a few of these charges throughout the weekend, but this one didn't get a mention. There were players who were not involved in the initial contact who came in and remonstrated, but no fines were given for this. Both McCluggage and Noah Anderson were both not given a fine for careless contact with an umpire here, which is very strange yet again as we've seen this paid for the rest of the week, but for some reason both of these did not receive a fine. And now Hunter Clark and Will Day have both been given a careless contact with an umpire charge, which happened in the first quarter, which is a fixed financial sanction of $1,500 with an early plea downgraded to $1,000. Stephen Cornelio and Tom Liberatore from GWS and Western Bulldogs respectively have been charged with careless contact with an umpire, which happened in the third quarter. Again, this is a fixed financial sanction of $1,500, downgraded to $1,000 with an early plea. McAndrew received no fine or suspension, obviously, for this melee and subsequent throwdown to the ground of Jared Berry, who also received a poke in the eye. No fine for this, a 50-metre penalty was paid, and I think that's about right. Anthony Caminiti from St Kilda has been charged with striking James Sicily from Hawthorn in the third quarter. The MRO graded this as intentional conduct, low impact and high contact. For this, he has been given a one-match sanction, which overall is his second charge for the year. This isn't the footage, but Lockie Neal and Touk Miller have been charged with engaging in a melee, which happened in the fourth quarter. It's a fixed financial sanction of $1,500, which can be downgraded to $1,000 with an early plea. And that's all the suspensions and fines for this week. Thank you for watching. Please like the video and leave a comment below if you think these are fair. Hello and welcome to the suspensions and fine episode for round 21 2023. The fan that touched the back of Marlon Pickett has actually been banned for more than 1 year. He will not be able to attend any AFL or AFLW games until October 2024. What are your thoughts on that ban? I think it's about right. There didn't seem like too much malice in it, but the fans do not need to be touching the players, and I guess a year ban will make that fan rethink their actions and never do it again. So advice to anyone that goes to the footy, do not touch the players. Darcy Byrne-Jones from Port Adelaide has been charged with tripping Max Holmes from Geelong. This happened on the Saturday night game. The MRO class this as intentional conduct, low impact and body contact. For this, it is a $3,000 sanction with an early plea can be downgraded to $2,000. This is a very fast but bad judgment here by Darcy Byrne-Jones. There wasn't that much in it in my opinion, but I think a fine is still appropriate for this one because you can't be out here tripping up your opponents. It's just far too dangerous. But overall, I think a fine is definitely appropriate. I think DBJ will think twice before tripping again, hopefully. I was quite interested to see that no fines came of the Crows and the Gold Coast Suns melee. I feel like usually the AFL give out fines for this for almost nothing, and there was a little bit of back and forth in the third quarter around the 9-minute mark and 6 minutes 30 left. You can see jumper punches are thrown, people are getting thrown to the ground, but for some reason there were no fines that were handed out this time, unless the AFL are a little bit slow on reporting, but I haven't seen any fines or anything that has come from this, so I guess everyone is free to play next week and their wallets don't get a nice little hit. Toby Bedford from GWS Giants has been charged with rough conduct, dangerous tackle against Ollie Florent from the Sydney Swans. This happened in the second quarter, and the MRO class this as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. For this, he's been given a one-match sanction. Oddly enough, the umpire didn't actually call this a dangerous tackle on the day. He actually paid holding the ball against Ollie Florent, as he makes no genuine attempt to get rid of the ball. So is that the MRO's way of saying that the umpire made the wrong call here, as Toby Bedford is now going to miss a week? The whole situation's a little bit strange. I think that Ollie Florent definitely could have got rid of the ball before the tackle was there, or he could have dropped it down to his boot to try and dispose of the ball, which then hopefully would have made Toby stop the tackle. But in the end, I guess he didn't have to bring him to the ground while his arm was pinned, and Ollie Florent hit his head on the ground, and I guess that's why he gets a one-match sanction for this. What are your thoughts? Bailey Williams from the West Coast Eagles has been charged with rough conduct, dangerous bump against Mason Redmond from Essendon. This happened in the fourth quarter, and the MRO graded this as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. For this bump, he has been given a one-match sanction, and for me personally, if I was at the West Coast Eagles, I would be challenging this. It's really hard to see because the video quality is quite low, so I'm sure the AFL have other angles that they are able to reference, but it doesn't actually look like Bailey Williams makes contact head high on Mason Redmond. Redmond does look like he flops a little bit, so I don't think a one-match sanction is probably fair for this. It doesn't look like he makes head high contact. It's a bump front on, but I wouldn't say it's an illegal bump. To get a one-match sanction for this, I think is fairly unfair. I could be wrong. That's my personal opinion. Leave a comment below if you think I'm way off. Braden Campbell from the Sydney Swans has been charged with rough conduct, dangerous bump against Lockie Whitfield from the GWS Giants. This happened in the first quarter and the MRO graded this as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. For this, he's been given a one-match sanction. Again, this one is quite hard to see because the footage quality is extremely low, so I do apologise for that. But to me, it actually looks like Braden Campbell makes contact with his elbow to Lockie Whitfield's jaw, or possibly even neck area. I'm not entirely sure. As he has made contact with the upper neck or the jaw, I think that a one-match sanction is probably about right. I do believe Campbell was probably trying to put the arms into Whitfield's chest, not into his neck, so I don't think there was that much malice in it, but I still think a week is probably about right for the crime, so to speak. So I think this one seems about right for me. What do you think? Brent Daniels from GWS has been charged with rough conduct for his dangerous bump on Jake Lloyd from the Sydney Swans. This happened in the fourth quarter and the MRO graded this as careless conduct, medium impact and high contact. For this, Brent Daniels has been given a one-match sanction, and me personally, I think he's actually pretty lucky to only get a one-match sanction for this, as he does make no attempt at the ball. This is totally off the ball after the ball's gone, and he connects with Lloyd's chin with his shoulder. Previously this year, we've seen this be a 2 to 3 week suspension, so I'm not entirely sure why this is a one-match sanction. Personally, I would have thought this was at least 2, but I could be wrong. What are your thoughts on that? Should have this been a 2 or 3 week suspension? Bo McCreary from Collingwood has been charged with striking James Sicily from Hawthorn. This happened in the second quarter. The MRO graded this as careless conduct, medium impact and body contact. For this, it's a $3,000 sanction, which can be downgraded to $2,000 with an early plea. And I think that's fair. It's definitely after the ball's gone, it's not a footy play, so $2,000 seems about right to me. I'm not entirely sure how bad boy Toby has got away with this one, as he clearly puts not 1, not 2, but 3 body parts into the neck of Ollie Florent and somehow does not cop a fine or a suspension for this. I think maybe the first elbow and second elbow probably were a fine for me, and then he puts the knee into the throat of Florent. We've seen that be a fine before, but I'm still a strong believer that anything in the neck while a person is down should be a suspension. You don't need a knee in your neck from an opposing player after you've already disposed of the ball. It's definitely not a footy play. I don't like it. Should have been a week for me. And anyway, that's it for this week. That's all I could find. I couldn't really find much from the Sunday game, so I'm not entirely sure what is going on there. But I do appreciate you watching. If you like these videos, then please do leave a like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you're new and you like this stuff, please do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.